I died at 35 in a car accident, driving home from another lonely dinner where my husband Richard had canceled at the last minute for a business meeting that I knew was actually drinks with his colleagues. The truck hit me head-on and my last thought was, at least I won't have to pretend to be happy anymore. My name is Claire Morrison and I spent 12 years married to Richard Morrison, a man who loved his career more than he loved me, who treated our marriage like a business arrangement, who made me feel invisible in my own life. He never cheated. He never hit me. He just slowly erased me with indifference. When I opened my eyes, I was 23 years old, sitting in a cafe across from Richard, listening to him propose. Claire, I know we've only been dating a year, but I think we're perfect together. We want the same things: stability, family, success. Will you marry me? I stared at the ring, the same modest diamond he'd bought in my original timeline because he was saving money for a house down payment. The ring I'd worn for 12 years while he climbed the corporate ladder and forgot I existed. In my first life I'd said yes immediately, thrilled that someone wanted me, eager to start our life together. This time I heard myself say, no. Richard's face went through shock, confusion, hurt. No? Claire, I don't understand. I don't want to marry you, Richard. But we talked about this. We planned. You planned. You decided we were compatible based on a checklist. But you never asked what I actually wanted. What do you want? I want someone who sees me, who thinks about me when I'm not there, who cancels business meetings to have dinner with me, not the other way around. That's not fair. I'm building a career. I know. And you should. But I'm not going to build my life around yours while you forget I exist. I stood up, leaving the ring on the table. Find someone who wants what you're offering, Richard. That's not me. I walked out of the cafe and kept walking, feeling lighter than I'd felt in 12 years. Over the next week, Richard tried everything. He called constantly, sent flowers, showed up at my apartment. Each time I told him the same thing: we wanted different things and that was okay. You'll regret this, he finally said, angry now. You're throwing away a good thing because of some fantasy about romance. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather be alone chasing a fantasy than lonely in a loveless marriage. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Richard was dating someone new. Vanessa-chan, a corporate lawyer with family money and connections. In my original timeline, Vanessa had been someone Richard admired from afar but never pursued because he was already married to me. She's perfect for him, our friend Jessica told me over lunch. Same ambition, same goals. They're already talking about marriage. Good for them, I said, and meant it. You're not upset? Why would I be? We wanted different things. He found someone who wants what he wants. What do you want? I thought about my 12 years with Richard, the loneliness, the silent dinners, the feeling of being a prop in his life rather than a partner. I want someone who chooses me first, I said. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it conflicts with their career. Someone who sees me as an equal, not an accessory. That's a tall order. Then I'll be alone. I'd rather be single than settled. 6 months after leaving Richard, I met Daniel Chan at a charity event. He was tall, quiet, and spent the entire evening avoiding the networking crowds to read in a corner. Not a fan of small talk? I asked, sitting down beside him. He looked up and smiled, genuinely smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. I prefer real conversation to business cards exchanges. What qualifies as real conversation? Tell me something true about yourself. Not your job or your achievements. Something real. I thought about it. I'm terrified that I made the biggest mistake of my life 6 months ago. And I'll never know if I was right. What did you do? I turned down a marriage proposal from a good man because I wanted more than good enough. Daniel was quiet for a moment. That's not a mistake. That's courage. How do you know? Because good enough kills you slowly. It's worse than dramatic failure. It's slow suffocation while everyone tells you how lucky you are. I stared at him. You sound like you speak from experience. I do. I spent 5 years in a relationship with someone I loved who saw me as a project. Someone who wanted to fix me, improve me, make me more successful. She loved her vision of who I could be, not who I actually was. What happened? I left. Everyone said I was crazy. She was beautiful, ambitious, from a good family. But I was dying inside. Do you regret it? Not once. I'm building something I care about now. I'm becoming someone I actually like. That's worth more than approval. We talked for 3 hours. About books, about dreams, about the difference between loneliness and solitude. When the event ended, Daniel asked for my number. I'd like to have another real conversation, he said. If you're interested. I'm very interested. We dated for a year before Daniel proposed. And it was nothing like Richard's proposal. We were hiking in the mountains alone except for the view and the wind. Daniel stopped at a peak and turned to me. Claire, I love you. Not because you fit some checklist. Not because we're compatible on paper. But because you see me, really see me, and I see you too. You're brilliant and kind and brave enough to walk away from what doesn't serve you. He pulled out a ring. A unique sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. Nothing like the modest diamond Richard had offered. I'm not asking you to build your life around mine. I'm asking if we can build something together. As equals. As partners. As two people who choose each other every day, not out of obligation, but out of genuine want. I looked at this man who'd spent a year proving he meant what he said. Canceling business trips to be with me when I was sick, remembering small things I'd mentioned in passing, treating my dreams as important as his own. Yes, I said. Absolutely yes. We were married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Jessica was my maid of honor. You look happy, she observed as I got ready. Actually happy, not performing happy. I am happy. Richard got married last month. To Vanessa. Did you know? I heard. Does it bother you? I thought about Richard, driven, ambitious, convinced he knew what was best. And Vanessa? Equally ambitious, equally focused on success. No, I said honestly. I hope they're happy together. They want the same things. What I didn't say was, I hope he treats her better than he treated me. Daniel and I settled into married life easily. We both worked. I was an editor at a publishing house. He was building a tech company focused on educational software. But we made time for each other. We had dinner together most nights. We talked about our days, our dreams, our fears. We were partners. 2 years into our marriage, Daniel's company took off. A major investor believed in his vision, and suddenly we went from comfortable to wealthy. This is going to change things, Daniel warned me. More travel, more pressure. More people trying to get close to us for the wrong reasons. Can we handle it? If we're honest with each other and we keep remembering what actually matters, yes. He was right that it would change things. But he was also right that we could handle it. Daniel included me in major decisions. He turned down opportunities that would have meant months away from home. He kept his priorities clear. Our relationship first, business second. Everything Richard had never done. 3 years into our marriage, I ran into Richard at a business function. Daniel was speaking on a panel about educational technology, and I was in the audience supporting him. Richard was there with Vanessa, both dressed impeccably, both radiating success. Claire, Richard said, surprised. I didn't know you'd be here. My husband is on the panel. Your husband? Richard looked confused. I didn't know you'd remarried. Before I could respond, Daniel finished his panel and came to find me. He put his arm around me naturally, kissed my temple. Ready to go? He asked, then noticed Richard. He extended his hand politely. Daniel Chun. You must be one of Claire's friends. Richard shook his hand automatically, then froze. Daniel Chun? As in Chun Tech Solutions. That's me. I watched the color drain from Richard's face. He was staring at Daniel like he'd seen a ghost. Is something wrong? I asked. No, I didn't realize. Richard was stammering, which was unusual for him. Claire, can I talk to you privately? Why? Please. Just 5 minutes. Daniel kissed my forehead. I'll get the car. Take your time. After he left, Richard turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before. Panic mixed with desperation. Claire, do you know who he is? Yes, Richard. He's my husband. No, I mean, do you know who Daniel Chun actually is? I know exactly who he is. He owns half the tech patents my company uses. He controls the licensing agreements for our entire product line. Claire, he could destroy my company with one phone call. I stared at him. Why would he do that? Because, Richard ran his hand through his hair. Because 3 years ago, when he was just starting out, he came to me for investment. I laughed at him. I told him his idea was naive and would never work. I told him he should get a real job instead of wasting time on education software nobody needs. You did what? I didn't know it was him. When you said your husband's name, I didn't connect it. Daniel is such a common name. But seeing him, hearing him speak, Claire, he's brilliant. His company is worth hundreds of millions. And I'm at his mercy. Is that why you came to talk to me? To ask me to convince my husband not to destroy your career? I'm asking you to understand that I made a mistake. That I didn't know. You made a lot of mistakes, Richard. Dismissing Daniel's vision was just one of them. Claire, please. Daniel doesn't hold grudges. If he wanted revenge on everyone who dismissed him, he'd spend his whole life angry. He's not interested in destroying you. He's too busy building things that matter. But he could. He could. But he won't. Because that's who he is. He's not petty. He's not vengeful. He's just focused on what actually matters. I started to walk away, then turned back. Richard, you asked if I knew who Daniel was. Let me ask you something. Did you ever actually know who I was? What? In 12 years of marriage in another timeline you don't remember. Did you ever once ask me what I wanted? What I dreamed about? What scared me? Did you even know my favorite book, or the name of my childhood dog? Richard was silent. You didn't. Because I was never a person to you. I was a checkbox. Suitable wife, check. Supportive partner, check. Someone who won't distract from career goals, check. That's not fair. It's absolutely fair. You wanted someone who would fade into the background of your life. Vanessa probably does that perfectly. But I needed someone who saw me as the foreground. Daniel does that. That's the difference. I walked away, leaving Richard standing there looking lost. In the car, Daniel asked, "Everything okay?" "Perfect." Richard wanted to apologize for dismissing your business idea years ago. Oh, Daniel shrugged. People dismiss lots of ideas. That's their prerogative. He's worried you'll retaliate by pulling his licensing agreements. Daniel laughed. Why would I do that? His company pays for licensing, we provide the software, everyone benefits. That's how business works. He seems to think you might be vindictive. I'm too busy to be vindictive. Besides, holding grudges is exhausting. I'd rather spend that energy on you. Kissed him. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour. I was getting worried. A week later, Vanessa called me. We'd never been close, but we'd moved in similar social circles before I'd left Richard. Claire, I need to talk to you about something. Okay. Can we meet for coffee? I almost said no, but curiosity won. We met at a cafe near her office. Vanessa looked immaculate as always. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect designer suit. But there were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Thank you for meeting me, she said. What did you want to talk about? Richard. And you. And, she took a deep breath. I need to know something. Why did you leave him? That was 4 years ago, Vanessa. Why does it matter now? Because I think I'm making the same mistake you almost made. Or maybe the mistake you avoided making. What do you mean? I thought Richard and I were perfect together. Same goals, same ambitions, same vision for success. But Claire, I'm so lonely. We live in the same house, sleep in the same bed, but I'm completely alone. I felt a flash of sympathy. Have you told him? I've tried. He says I'm being emotional, that I should focus on my career instead of needing so much attention. That successful people don't have time for romantic gestures. That sounds familiar. Did he say that to you too? Variations of it. For 12 years. Vanessa's eyes widened. 12 years? But you were only married for. Caught my mistake. I mean, it felt like 12 years. Time moves slowly when you're lonely. How did you know to leave? What made you realize it wasn't going to get better? I thought about my first timeline, dying at 35, still hoping Richard would one day see me, still believing that if I just tried harder, was less demanding, was more understanding, he'd eventually love me the way I needed to be loved. I realized that wanting someone to change is different from them actually changing. I said. Richard is who he is. He's driven, ambitious, focused on success. Those aren't bad qualities. They're just incompatible with what I needed. What did you need? To be seen. To be chosen. To matter as much as spreadsheets and quarterly reports. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I can leave. We just bought a house. Our families are thrilled we're together. Everyone says we're the perfect couple. Everyone said that about Richard and me too. In that timeline I can barely remember. So what do? I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you this. If you stay, accept that this is who he is. Don't wait for him to become someone different. Don't sacrifice your needs hoping he'll eventually meet them. And if I can't accept it, then you already have your answer. 6 months later, I heard that Vanessa had filed for divorce. Richard was apparently shocked. He thought they were happy, thought their partnership was working perfectly. He thought wrong. Jessica told me over lunch. Vanessa said she felt like a business associate, not a wife. She's dating someone now. Some artist who's completely unsuccessful and absolutely devoted to her. Good for her, I said. Richard's taking it hard. His company is struggling too. Apparently, Daniel's company released new software that's way better than what Richard's company offers. Richard's losing clients. Is Daniel doing that deliberately? No, that's the thing. Daniel's just doing his job, making better products. Richard thought he was safe because he'd secured long-term licensing. But now clients are going directly to Chen Tech Solutions, instead of using Richard's company as a middleman. So Richard's company is becoming obsolete. Basically. And Richard's convinced it's revenge for how he treated you. And how he dismissed Daniel years ago. It's not revenge. It's just progress. A few weeks later Richard called me. I almost didn't answer but something made me pick up. Claire, I need to talk to you. What about? Can we meet? Please. It's important. We met at the same cafe where he'd proposed 4 years earlier. He looked terrible, exhausted, defeated. Nothing like the confident man I'd left. What's going on, Richard? My company is failing. Vanessa left me. My parents are disappointed. Everyone's asking what went wrong. And I don't know how to answer. I'm sorry you're struggling. Are you? Or are you happy that I'm finally getting what I deserve? Richard, I'm not happy you're in pain. I'm just not responsible for fixing it. I know you're not. But Claire, I need you to understand something. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how I never really knew you. And you were right. Okay. I thought marriage was a partnership, a business arrangement between two compatible people working toward the same goals. I thought romance was frivolous, that emotional needs were weaknesses to overcome. That's very efficient, I said. And very lonely. I'm starting to understand that. He looked at me with genuine curiosity. Can I ask you something? What's it like? Being married to Daniel. It's like having a partner who actually cares about my day. Who remembers I hate olives and love sunflowers. Who cancels meetings when I'm sick and doesn't make me feel guilty about it. Who talks to me like I'm interesting. Not like I'm interrupting. That sounds exhausting. It's not. It's easy. Because it's genuine. I don't think I know how to do that. Then maybe you need to figure out what you actually want, Richard. Not what you think you should want. Not what looks good on paper. What actually makes you happy. I don't know if I know how to be happy. Then that's where you start. After Richard left, I sat in the cafe for a while, thinking about the two timelines, the one where I died in a loveless marriage, and the one where I'd chosen differently. I didn't hate Richard. I didn't even feel vindictive. I just felt grateful that I'd been given a second chance to choose better. My phone buzzed. Daniel. Dinner tonight? I'm making your favorite. Me. Perfect. I love you. Daniel. I love you more. And I have sunflowers waiting for you. I smiled and headed home. Not to a house but to a home. The difference between those two things was everything. 5 years after leaving Richard, Daniel and I were at a charity gala when Richard approached us. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, petite, warm-looking, laughing at something Richard had said. Claire, Daniel, Richard greeted us. There was no panic in his face this time, no desperation. He looked lighter somehow. Richard. Good to see you. This is Emma. Emma, this is Claire, we used to date, and her husband Daniel. Emma shook our hands warmly. Richard's told me about you. He says you helped him figure out what actually matters. I raised an eyebrow at Richard. Did I? You did. When you said I needed to figure out what makes me happy instead of what looks good on paper, I actually listened. Eventually. And? Daniel asked, genuinely interested. And I realized I'd been chasing success because I thought it would make me worthy of love. But it just made me successful and lonely. That's very insightful, I said. Emma's a therapist. She's helping me figure out all the ways I'm emotionally stunted. Emma laughed. He's being dramatic. But yes, we're working on it. How's your company? Daniel asked. I sold it, Richard said. Took the money and started something smaller. Less ambitious but more meaningful. I'm developing educational programs for underprivileged kids. Daniel's face lit up. That's fantastic. If you need any software solutions, let me know. We might be able to partner. Richard looked surprised. You work with me? After how I treated you? Why wouldn't I? That was years ago. People grow. I'm interested in what you're building now, not what you said when you were younger and stupider. After they left, I turned to Daniel. You're really going to help him? If his project is worthwhile, yes. I'm not in the business of holding grudges. I'm in the business of making education better. You're a better person than I am. You're the one who didn't gloat when his company failed. We're equally mature. True. We're both evolved and wonderful. And humble, Daniel added with a grin. 10 years after my rebirth, Daniel and I were expecting our first child. We'd waited, wanting to be sure our relationship was solid, our careers established, our life ready for a baby. At my baby shower, both Jessica and Emma attended. They'd become friends over the years, bonding over their shared experience of watching people grow and change. Who would have thought, Jessica mused, that 10 years later we'd all be here celebrating together? Life is weird, I agreed. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? Emma asked. If you'd married Richard, if I'd never met him, if Daniel had given up on his company? I thought about my first timeline, the me who'd said yes to Richard, who'd spent 12 years slowly disappearing, who died in a car accident feeling relief. Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember that everything that happened led me here. To Daniel, to this baby, to this life. And I wouldn't change that. Even the hard parts? Jessica asked. Especially the hard parts. They taught me what I actually needed. 15 years after my rebirth, I was 43 years old with 2 children. A daughter, Maya, and a son, Jacob. Daniel's company had grown into one of the most influential educational technology firms in the world. My career as an editor had evolved into heading my own publishing house focused on diverse voices. We were successful, happy, and still genuinely in love. Richard and Emma had married and had a child of their own. Richard's educational programs were thriving. Smaller in scale than Daniel's company, but deeply impactful. He'd found his purpose, and it had nothing to do with profit margins. At a school fundraiser where both our kids attended, Richard and I found ourselves alone for a moment while our spouses watched the kids play. Claire, can I ask you something I've always wondered? Sure. How did you know? When I proposed, how did you know to say no? I thought about the honest answer, that I'd died in a marriage to him and been given a chance to choose differently, but that wasn't an answer I could give. I knew because I paid attention, I said. I noticed that you were more excited about the house down payment than about spending your life with me. I noticed that you saw marriage as an achievement to unlock, not as a daily choice to make. I noticed that you never asked what I wanted. You just assumed I wanted what you wanted. I was an idiot. You were young and focused on the wrong things. Do you ever regret it? Saying no. I looked over at Daniel, who was spinning our daughter in circles while she shrieked with laughter. I looked at the life we'd built. Messy and chaotic and absolutely full of love. Not once, I said honestly. But I'm glad you figured it out eventually. Emma says I'm still a work in progress. We all are. That's the point. For what it's worth, Daniel is a good man. And I understand now why you chose him. He chose me too. That's what made the difference. 25 years after my rebirth, I was 53 years old. Looking back on a life completely different from the one I'd lived originally. In my first timeline, I died at 35. Lonely. Forgotten. Relieved. In this timeline, I was 53 and thriving. My children were in college. My marriage was still strong. My career was fulfilling. My life was full. Daniel and I were sitting on our porch watching the sunset when he asked, "Do you ever think about alternate realities? About how different our lives could have been if we'd made different choices?" I smiled. Only I knew how true that question was. "Sometimes," I said. "But I try not to dwell on it. This is the life we chose. These are the choices we made. And I'm happy with them. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The hard parts mean we're growing." Daniel kissed my temple. "I love you, Claire Morrison-Chun. I love you too. Do you think we'll still be sitting here in 25 more years, having the same conversation?" I thought about my first timeline, dying at 35, never getting to sit on a porch with someone who loved me, never getting to watch my children grow, never getting to build something meaningful. "I hope so," I said. "I really hope so." 30 years after my rebirth, I was 58 years old when Richard had a heart attack. He survived, but it was a wake-up call for all of us. A reminder that life was fragile and finite. Emma called me from the hospital. "Claire, he's asking for you." I know that's strange, but he says there's something he needs to tell you. I went to the hospital, where Richard was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. "Claire, thank you for coming." "Of course. How are you feeling?" "Like I almost died." He smiled weakly. "Emma says you've always been kind to me, even when I didn't deserve it." "You're not a bad person, Richard. You were just focused on the wrong things for a while." "I was. And I need to tell you something. I need to apologize." "For what?" "For not seeing you. For treating our relationship like a business arrangement. For thinking that compatibility on paper was the same thing as love." "Richard, that was 30 years ago." "But it matters. Because I could have died today, and I would have died knowing I'd been cruel to someone who deserved better." "You deserve to be loved, Claire. Really loved. And I didn't do that. Daniel does, and I'm glad. But I'm sorry I didn't." I felt tears prick my eyes, not for what could have been, but for what finally was, closure. "I forgive you," I said. "Not because you're not dying by the way, but because holding on to anger takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. You're kinder than I deserve. We're all kinder than someone deserves at some point. That's how grace works." After I left, Daniel picked me up from the hospital. "How was it?" he asked. "Good. Final. Necessary. Do you feel different?" "I feel light. Like I've been carrying something I didn't realize I was carrying, and now it's gone." "Good. Because I have plans for our retirement, and they don't include baggage from 3 decades ago." "Oh? What kind of plans?" "The kind that involve traveling the world, spoiling our grandchildren, and continuing to choose each other every single day." "I like these plans." "I thought you might." 35 years after my rebirth, the age I died in my original timeline, I celebrated my 60th birthday surrounded by family and friends. Richard and Emma were there, along with their grown children. My children were there with their partners, Daniel's business partners, my publishing house colleagues, a life full of people I'd chosen and who'd chosen me back. During the party, Emma pulled me aside. "Claire, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For leaving Richard when you did. For showing him that he needed to change. If you'd stayed, if you tried to make it work, he never would have grown into the person I fell in love with." "I didn't leave for him. I left for me." "I know. But the result was the same. You saved him by refusing to save him." "That's very poetic." "I'm a therapist. Poetic observations are kind of my thing." That night, after everyone had left, Daniel and I sat in our living room looking at photos from the party. "You know what I love about this?" Daniel said, gesturing to the photos. "What?" "Every person in these pictures chose to be here. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, not because they had to, but because they genuinely wanted to celebrate you. That's what happens when you build a life based on authentic relationships instead of convenient ones." Is that a dig at my past? No. It's a celebration of our present. Daniel pulled me close. "Have I told you lately that marrying you was the best decision I ever made?" "Not in the last 5 minutes." "Then let me remedy that. Marrying you was the best decision I ever made. Building a life with you was the smartest thing.